Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about how to update permissions in SharePoint using Power Automate. So stay tuned. In this video we're going to show you how to do, of course, SharePoint permissions using Power Automate. Now, Power Automate already has about 2 different actions that you can do right now that let you do some type of permission updates, but they don't let you do everything. For example, in SharePoint Designer you can do contribute rights and all those things, and it was really easy with SharePoint Designer. So we're going to show you how to do that in this video. But first off, we're just going to show you how to do the actions that are already available in Power Automate. So if we come over here, we'll just start a new flow. And I'm just going to do when an item is created and my site, my awesome Ben's practice site. And the list name is, let's see, Avengers. Don't make fun of me. I like the Avengers. And don't need any list views or anything like that. So when an item is created, now I can do something. I'm going to come over here and type in SharePoint. Give me all the different SharePoint actions. Let's click on this guy. Now I'm going to try to remember even what these are called. Honestly, I haven't really used them yet because I like the method I'm about to show you much better. But one of the things is, let's see if we can find it, grant access to an item or folder. So we take a look at this. One thing you can do, it's going to tell you right here, where is it? Oh, right here, there it is. So if you got this guy right here, I'm actually going to put the link to this learn more in the description below. So if you want to learn more about this, what it actually does, go check out that link. But basically what this lets you do is, I'm going to choose my site and the list or library. The ID is going to come from when the item was created. And I can type in somebody's email right here. And if we look at the roles, which is really the main part of this, I can either say this person can edit or this person can view the item. So I've got 2 different options there. Now that's kind of limiting because if I want someone to have like full control rights or contribute rights or whatever it is, I don't have those options there. I can just edit or add edit rights or add view rights. So it doesn't let me have all the options. So we're going to go over how to add all those different rights in the next part of the video. But the next thing I can do is add a message and notify them or not. And there's that one. So we're not even going to test that one because it's pretty self-explanatory. And the other one, let's do the same thing, SharePoint. If I remember this one is called Stop Sharing. Where is it? Stop sharing an item or file. And this one's even simpler. So there you have it. So if you're into simple things, if this works for you, then that's awesome because it should work. I've tried it. I think I tried it one time, but once I learned how to do this new method, I just started using that one. Right here, over here, I'll put this in the link in the description down below. And basically all it's doing is deleting all links giving access to an item or a file and remove all people with direct access except for owners. So if that's what you're needing to do, then that's great. But if you're wanting to do what you typically do in SharePoint Designer in those workflows is you first break inheritance of the item or file. So breaking inheritance, if you don't know what that means, basically means whenever an item or file is created in a list or library, it's getting the permissions from that list or library. So if the list is only shared with a certain group in SharePoint, then all the items by default are going to inherit their permissions from the permission settings in the list. So once you've broken inheritance on that item or file, it means they're not going to have, or that item isn't going to have those permissions. So basically it's not going to have any permissions for the moment until you give it new permissions. So we're going to show how to do all that. And let's go, we'll just get out of this guy, delete these guys real quick. And now we can get to the part that you're probably really wanting to see, which is right here. This was my flow that I created with my Avengers list. So I'll just do a basic walkthrough. of all the different things and how this works. You can see it's pretty simple. So you'll notice I have mine starting out with when an item is created. You can have any trigger you want, but you will be needing the ID of the item. That's kind of the only requirement. So whatever works for you. And you'll also notice that I am using the send an HTTP request to SharePoint. If you don't know what a HTTP request is, it's basically sending or getting information from SharePoint, but it's going to be kind of like a custom action, really. So if you want to learn more about HTTP request, I have another link in the description down below if you're wanting to understand that more. I'm probably not the best person to talk about that, but don't be afraid of this. I remember being afraid and kind of like, oh, what is that HTTP request? It's kind of weird. I've never coded before. That's not my background, but it's actually pretty simple once you kind of get the hang of it. And I'll give you all the code and everything you need to type in there, so it should be really simple for you. So if I go to this first one, it's looking pretty simple. So I'm just going to choose my site address, of course, which I've already done. And the method, now that link down below will explain, there's different methods, and it's basically saying, am I getting information and I updating information? There's kind of different ways on how that works. But the only ones we're going to be using in this flow is just the post and the patch. And this one is actually a post. And what it's doing right now is actually going to be breaking the inheritance. And you can see I put my Avengers for the list that I'm updating. And the ID is coming from this guy right up here. And if you're pausing the video, trying to type in what I have right there, you don't have to do that. I put that down below in the description. So that should make that a little bit easier for you. But basically all this one is doing is breaking the role inheritance, as I talked about before. And then the next thing that we're going to do is actually a little bit different in SharePoint Designer. It already gives you, if you're going to share it with a certain person or share that item with a certain group, SharePoint Designer can already get the information it needs to share that item. And in Flow, or in Power Automate, I like to still call it Flow, we actually need to get the principal ID of the group or the person. So that's basically going to allow Flow to know everything it needs so that it can share or edit the permissions for that person or for the group. So right here, I'm just going to do a variable. It's just going to be an integer variable since we're getting a ID. And my next HTTP request is going to be get. Again, I'll put my same site address, of course. My method is get, so I'm getting information. I'm getting that principal ID. And all I'm doing right here is putting in the email of the person that I want to get that information from. So I'm going to share this item with this person. So I'm going to put their email right here. And you can see those little quotes around it. Again, I'll put all these little formulas down below. The other thing that you might want to change here, of course, is I'm hard coding my, my email right here. And if you were to make this a little bit different, you could, get rid of the email. And I can get something else in here. I can get created by email or something like that. So you can, make this more dynamic and put their email in right there. But this is only for when we're trying to get the information of a user. If we're wanting to get that principal ID of the group, we're going to need to use something a little bit different. So if I open up my notes here, and again, this will be down below, but the group is going to be using this one. And the user, if you're wanting to share this with the user, you're going to use this one. So if I look right here and I get rid of this, I can enter in my group name. So if my group name was like Avengers group or something like that, which would make sense, then I can just type that in right there, and it should handle spaces. If it doesn't, try putting in like %20 or even message me if it's not working, because that's happened to me before. I've noticed that sometimes it wants a space and sometimes it handles the space or sometimes it doesn't. So kind of interesting, but let me know if that's happening and I'll see if I can help you with that. But it should handle the spaces just fine. And the next thing I'm going to do is set the variable that I just initialized right here. So if I come up to this, I'm setting my same variable right here, and this guy right here. Let me try this again. You know, sometimes it just doesn't want to work. And it's still not working, so we're just going to look at my notes. So basically, all I put right there in the expression is this right here. So I'm getting the D and then the ID. And basically, if you look, once your flow actually runs, you can see what this is actually doing. This is, you know, the ID is part of this D right here. And of course, you're going to need to make sure that this matches up with that HTTP request right here. So whenever you're getting the principal ID, you're going to reference to that one. And it's still not working. You're going to do the D and then ID, just like that. So this will be whatever name that is, and then this and this will be the same. Again, that's down below, so you don't have to type that in. And that sets the variable for our principal ID, makes things a little easier. And finally, our last step, we're actually going to set the permissions. So on this one right here, we have our site address. Our method is a post. Since we're sending SharePoint information, we want to make a change. And this one is the longest one that we have, and so just to make this a little bit easier, let's just look right here. So this is the one we're looking at. Now basically what we're going to do here, all you need to do is put in your list name right here. So I would type in Avengers as I did, and the item ID, if you can see down below, that's where I put the ID coming from when an item was created. And then the next thing we need to do is put in the principal ID. So right here, that's where you put that principal ID in. Again, this is down below if I haven't said that too many times. Right where that principal ID equals, you're going to put in that variable right there. And the only thing that you're actually going to change here as well is this number right here. So if I look at my notes again, that number is basically saying, do you want this to be view only, read, contribute, edit? If you remember at the very beginning, we showed you where Power Automate has a view only and a edit, but it doesn't have these other ones, the read, contribute, design, full control. So I'll put those, as you can imagine, down below. I'll put those right here, right down there for you, so you can look at those and see which one you want to do. So if I change the number, it's going to be changing the different permission settings. So it'll be view only or read or whatever it is. And so that's where you put that number right there. So let's test it out real quick. I'll go back over to my list and we'll do a new Avenger. Let's see, my wife can be Miss Captain Fetish. Makes sense. We'll do a 10 for her because she's awesome. And let's save. And if we look at our flow, it looks like it ran successfully. Again, showing you this real quick here. You can see when I'm getting that principal ID, what I'm getting back in the outputs is D, and the ID is right there. So then we're using that ID to be set as a variable. Apparently it's 14. And when we did this, Avengers, items, the ID was 18, principal ID 14, and it doesn't give us anything back, and that's it. We come back to our item. We'll look at Miss Captain Fetters. Come over here. You can see that I am the only one that has access to this. So it worked. So there you have it. So usually you might have to do this a few more times if you're wanting to add permissions to different groups and things like that. But this is the basics of how to do all this permission settings using Power Automate. We've actually used this to replace some of our SharePoint Designer workflows. We usually would have a Power Automate, and then when we wanted to do permissions, we had the Designer workflow, and now we're able to just do everything with Power Automate. So there's that. If you have any questions, just leave a comment below. I'll try to get to them. And if you have any ideas for videos, if you want me to talk about anything specific, I'd love to do that. I'm working on making more videos. And also, If you're wanting help with Power Automate or Power Apps, we do 2 different types of services. We'll either help you build your workflow or build your application step by step with you, designing it with you, building it with you, or we can just build these things for you. So check out our website. It's sovereignsp.com, and of course that link is down below again. And also check out our blog on that website that'll show you this step by step. You can see the different screenshots there and copy the different coding, but hopefully that's not too scary for any of you with the HTTP requests. I remember being really confused by these, but they're actually really helpful, and you can look them up. There's lots of different things you can do with these, and I hope this was helpful. So see you in the next video.